or two of the little 1 gram. Those are nice. I like those.
Sign in for form? I'm going to do another form call.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't mind having one.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not signed in at the front desk, please do so.
For Region 7.
If you have not signed in, if today is your first day as a delegate, please go to the front desk. Oh, even if it's not the first day. Regardless, if you have not signed in yet, please go to the front desk, sign in, and come back in the room and join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so we're clear.
Good. Did you see this? He's on an anti-Florida campaign.
I figured I would go through all the messages when I get home and look at all the
Well,
fireworks because I have not.
Let's turn it into a positive. People are looking at you.
Yes. And the debate.
And staying at ours. I think we have you see here. Should I actually weigh in and say, please provide proof? I got some information from Lynn House about Macy's. I think what I'm going to do is do a resolution next meeting. So the commendation, that sort of thing. Yeah, she's done a super job for 10, 12 years now. Yeah, so she needs to be recognized. Yeah.
She won the award last year.
Yeah, I think so.
She definitely deserves.
Yeah, she needs all the praise she can get. I mean, she's working like 50 pages or something right now, and she has no time for us, but she's responsible. And that needs to be.
I sat outside the bus for a while, but I was too scared to come in there. It sounded like a giant party, so I just was going outside with Herman.
Get started.
Yeah.
I'm scared of these.
Bang your gavel.
Meet our secretary and treasurer.
Yeah.
I was outside though.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Guess what? Did you hear? We're short a presidential candidate.
Say again.
Whitney dropped out of the race a half an hour ago.
Oh, we did?
Oh, really?
Oh, cool. So now you can take the.
Well, I guess we're trying to shake them up in Florida.
So now that he's dropping out, are you going to run on the We Hate Florida plan? Are you going to run on the We Hate Florida plan? Which, by the way, is getting us a lot more attention. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say your live views most of them way up.
Yeah, they were. Actually, if you haven't heard, we had 2,300 viewers last night.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I missed an opportunity to get people's attention. No, I was happy to sit back last night.
Well, stand up, scream at people.
I have no idea.
That
No,
gets you
not a way to win friends and influence people. I love it. This is getting off to a big starting start.
We're all waiting on you. Now we can start.
certainly can't. Failure of messaging on that scale. You can't really.
Well, it was a unique approach.
That clearly bombed.
Better luck next time. See my region here.
Looks like we might.
Just a reminder, if you have not signed in yet, please do so you can be added to quorum. Thank you.
I think we might have quorum.
I think so. I think we are up to 60 right now. So we're doing pretty well.
And there's more than 30 in the room, so. Need the secretary in here so we can resume the orders of the day.
So just to be clear, I don't have to participate in my regional caucus.
I'm sorry?
Just to be very clear, I don't have to participate in my regional caucus.
As long as they have a quorum.
Okay.
I don't know how many are in the region here.
interesting. So if they don't have quorum, then they can't elect them.
Right.
But I'm not committed to it.
Huh?
I'm not committed to it. It doesn't nullify my state position. It doesn't nullify my state position if I do not attend.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But like I said, it could impede their quorum.
True.
Because you're a credentialed delegate. If you choose not to attend, it comes against the quorum. I'm not advising you either way. I'm just telling you what it does.
Gathering information. No point in going where I'm not going to. So.
I do not know how many militia people are here.
There were about 5 or 6. I see 2.
There's how many now?
I just see 2.
So unless they're unanimous.
Okay.
Suzanne is my credential.
Okay.
One of the LPWs. Be out there checking pictures.
Oh, okay. So I guess,
It's not going to take more than 5 minutes.
okay.
At some point, we have to cut this off.
Yeah, we gotta, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. He can be added. He can be added. So it's fine.
It says no, we can't give them credentials until we have everybody.
What was the cutoff for registration on the agenda?
Technically, 9:30. So I would.
See, y'all are way too nice.
I think you're right.
Said the rules change.
Yes.
Well, I thought we agreed that I was a tyrant.
Mr. Secretary, could you let them know that we're not going to accept any more registrants at this point because we do need to start business?
Anybody in the registration, I had already assumed cut off. I wasn't there.
Yeah, we had a lot of people checking in late. I just want to get everybody in here so we can get going.
Just announce that registration's cut off.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to announce that registrations are cut off. So if you are planning on registering, that it is now cut off. We need to get to business here in a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and get everybody in the next several minutes, get started. We're running a little late, but we're going to get going, and we'll see how things go today. We might get out early. We might have to extend a little bit of time. Well, I do hope everybody did manage to get some sleep, or if you're like me, you can pretend you did.
Okay. Libertarians will procrastinate just as long as you let them.
I'm waiting for
I'm saying that's why if you keep extending the registration, they're going to develop bad habits.
We need a dictator.
Huh?
We need a
I figure I'm not really that harsh.
well, not that.
Do you want me to call the orders of the day and
Yeah.
make the motion? And direct the sergeant at arms to escort the secretary into the room? Because, we could go hardcore. I mean,
Of course, I tried that, and that didn't seem to work.
You didn't have a very good sergeant at arms then, did you?
Our rules chairman suggests that we have the sergeant at arms escorting our secretary.
That would be the strict interpretation.
It would keep up our rep.
We're discussing strict ramifications of Roberts.
Yeah, Robert's rules.
Suit and tie today.
That guy's attention.
All right, I'm going to have our sergeant at arms escort our secretary and treasurer in if we don't.
You're ready as soon as I count the numbers.
Okay.
But you can make an announcement reminding people that they need to sign out when they're leaving.
Okay.
So we can track that.
Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and count the numbers now for quorum. If you are checking out early and you are leaving, please let our secretary know so we can count you
They can be
off the list.
deliberately trying to sabotage quorum, and that's in order. Just so you know. Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
It is orderly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of the Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention. I want to thank you all for being with us today and sticking around for our final day of business. And before we get started, I just want to ask, are you guys having a great convention? Awesome, awesome. And I want to say, no one has put as much work, time, effort, and her heart into this convention than our very own Donna Olivadotti. And we have a gift for Donna today, and I want to bring Donna up to the stage to say thank you for making this amazing convention happen. It wouldn't have happened without you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I did all of it for you. I love this affiliate, and I'm completely dedicated, just like each and every one of you guys are. Thank you so much for attending the convention. We had a great time. Thank you so much.
And I believe we have another quick announcement. Davey, did you want to come up to the mic? And
Yes, again, Donna, thank you very much for this convention. And I'd also like to recognize Joe Tay. He's been helping me with my campaign, and I would strongly recommend anyone who's a candidate to work with Joe Tay. He has gotten about 60 to 70% of the petitions that I need in 2 days.
Yeah, he was standing.
Joe Tay, stand? Yes.
And lastly, I want to thank Silver Airways for delivering my luggage today. And I can be presentable for you guys this morning in a suit. All right. So before we get started, we will go to Mr. Appler with our credentials report. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I want to apologize to everybody for getting started late here, but it took a while to get everybody checked in. At the end of all this, we ended up with 66 signed-in delegates.
66. All right, excellent. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do a quorum call. So same procedure as yesterday. Everybody with a black delegate badge, please stand up. I'll go ahead and take your counts, and then sit down once I've counted.
Sensibilities there. I don't like having a live mic.
I'm just keeping my mouth shut.
Thank you, Adam. So we have 74.
Somebody didn't sign in.
Did anybody forget to sign in with Ed this morning?
Well, let me recount the numbers.
Did you include the officers?
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah.
They already have signatures.
Does anybody with an orange card not have a black delegate tag on your name tag?
I've counted 66. I've counted 66 again.
Warren Clark.
Oh, okay, well, that'll.
They're still,
We're still short
by 7. Yeah. We're gonna have to do it.
Down near the
Can
bottom.
we, why don't we count who's checked in and whoever's not checked in? Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is everybody who's a delegate, please stand up. We're gonna run everybody's name through the list.
All the way down to the bottom.
And then if your name is called, please sit down so we can identify the 7 people who have not checked in yet. We don't know which names. Mr. Appler, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm signed in. J. Mark Barfield signed in. Okay. Well, those are just my colleagues here that I know have checked in. Okay, Lisa Barfield. Leah Bartos. Sarah Bartos. Samantha Broderick. Martha Bueno. Philippe Cateret. Michael Cassidy. Daniel D.L. Cummings. Stephen Dieter. Bob Frank. Spencer Garber. Shane George. Susan George. Suzanne Gilmore. Joshua Godawa. Kenneth Hughes. Wayne Jackman. James Jensen. Tegan Joseph. Lee Koritzer. Sean Coons. George Leibovitz. Jonathan Loche. Ashley McCoy. Joseph Maraca. Denise Mascarelli and Paul Mascarelli. Daryl O'Kane. Donna Olivadotti, John Olivadotti. Davey Parrish. Greg Peel, Marie Peel. Dean Peterson, Marcia Powell. Omar Requero. Chaz Sanders. Tony Sellers. Donnie Smith. Michael Smith. Joseph Sokol. Mark Tanzer. David Tartaglia. Joanna Tartaglia. John Luke Teskey. John Thompson. Joseph M. Thompson. James Turney. Emily Vesta. James Ward. Mitchell Wiechek. Kenneth Willie. Wesley Wilson. Gabe Wozniak. Brian Zamina. John Paff. Zach Detweiler. Marcos Marrero. Mark Galobe. Andre Klass. Warren Clark. James Dernbach. Damian Guillen. Pamela Jensen. And Niveen Zakari. Those are the names that have signed in.
2, 3. So Stephen
All right, so everybody please come on up who's standing to the front stage so we can get you signed in.
Mr. Nicola. Mr. Nicola, you weren't called. Mr. Nicola wasn't called. Your name was not called, Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, my name wasn't called. Did you already sign me in? I mean, did you already include me?
You didn't say that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Are all these mics hot? Are all these mics hot? No. That one has 2. So all the mics are hot. All the mics are hot, Mr. Barfield.
They're in my throat.
Really? That's hilarious.
I guess I didn't make it clear that signing had to be accomplished again today, in addition to yesterday.
No, at least 66% of the time.
Listen, next year I'm gonna put it on the agenda, the big disclaimer that you must sign in each
Yeah.
day.
We almost beat provincial high school cheerleading. That raises an RO in the
Maybe instead of registration, we can do registration/credential sign-in. Something like that. That way,
streamline.
yeah, because I mean, it, you know, maybe they don't know that that's what registration is. So,
There's a couple of ways of approaching it.
we'll figure it out. I mean, it's not like we don't have a whole nother year to work on it, but it's definitely something that, obviously, if we're going to hold business up for 15 minutes over,
Make it easy.
yeah. What was it they called it? Presumptive something? They called it something this morning. It's a P word.
So I think we're good to go now. Mr. Red, did you already sign in? Yeah. What time is it checkout? 11. Okay. Is 11 o'clock to checkout? Okay.
I would suggest we pass our ballots quickly and then everybody can check it out. While somebody's
Yeah.
counting.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I suggest we cast our ballots and then whoever has to check out.
Raise your hand if you need to check out of the hotel by 11 o'clock. Okay, so we have a couple of people here. What we'll do is we're going to be going to a lot of business. So what we'll do is I'd like to make a motion to have a 10-minute recess at 11 o'clock to allow the folks that need to go out and check out to do so. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mark Morero. Any objection?
If we do not include counting the votes, we cannot take the recess during the vote counting. So we do not have hard time on the recess. We can stay there.
Do we think we can do voting right now? And then while the votes count, then we can allow people to. Okay. Okay. So in that case, if you've already voted for. Okay. So what we're going to do next, and we'll go ahead and you all have a orange piece of paper. You have 2 votes for your nominee for delegate to the National Convention. So go ahead and make your nominee choice for the 2 votes. I'll have Adam go around and collect the votes, and as we count the votes, that'll be an opportunity for the folks who need to check out to go ahead and check out, and that way we can continue with business. No objections? All right, that's what we'll do.
No, it's J-Mark and I were just talking about that. We're gonna make it more clear next time that if registration is not understood by
Trying to get people checked in.
oh yeah, we're definitely wrangling
After
cats
the
here.
start of the meeting,
Yeah.
I can't read it.
Are you a delegate? You have to be a delegate to vote.
Yes. And you can vote for yourself twice or somebody if you'd like as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't set the table up the same way as we did yesterday, so apparently me and Philippe became best friends real quick.
Okay, well, you are. I must have skipped your name somehow. Before you on the first page.
Once you cast your vote, you can go and check out what you got to do, and then come on back. Yeah, guys, you can go ahead, cast your vote. If you got to go and check out, once you cast your vote, feel free to leave the room and come back in once you're ready. We'll get started with the next items. Hey. Correct. Correct. Yep.
I see what it is. I missed this guy. So
Oh, okay, so we're at 74? Okay, excellent. Good, good, good. If anybody needs to bring their luggage in the room, they're more than welcome to bring it in and put it along the back wall. And also just a reminder that the only eligible nominees for delegates are the ones that we voted on the list yesterday. The nominees that were included yesterday are eligible. And once we're done with the eligible ballots, then the preceding ballots will be deemed alternates, up to 50 alternates from this state. If anybody needs us to read the names off the list, if they need a reminder, they can come up here and talk to us, and we can go through it together since there's too many to display on the screen. But we'd be more than happy to go through that list with you if you want to verify that somebody is a nominee on that list.
Sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? So it's just brought to my attention that the Libertarian Party of Seminole County is one of 5 affiliates being recognized nationally by the National Party for the LP Everywhere contest. And if you vote, so if you go to lp.org and scroll down and go to LP Everywhere contest, if you can go ahead and put your email address, LP member ID number, and choose Libertarian Party of Seminole County, please help our affiliate win the $1,000. Thank you.
Sure. Will do. It's on the Seminole page now? Okay.
Yeah, I think Sean posted on the Seminole page.
Okay. I'll do that now. Sure.
Yes. I was going to allow 15 minutes at the end of the business meeting for time for announcements. And as we continue to tally the votes, if anybody would like to make an announcement, feel free to come up to the podium, and I'll allow you several minutes to speak. Lectern. It's in the bylaws. This is a lectern. It is not a podium. You want to come on up and speak for a few minutes? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We've got empty time. We might as well fill it with some space. So, Mr. Louis Vanacore, presidential nominee. You have 5 minutes.
Can I take this? Go walking?
I prefer if you just keep it there. Because
Okay.
It's already set.
Okay, my name is Louis Vanacore. I am a presidential nominee. We didn't have enough chairs last night to get up on the podium, so they're going to give me a few minutes here to go and talk a little bit about what I represent. One of the things you'll notice is I talk a little bit slower. Okay, if you notice, I talk a little bit slower than some of the other candidates. I'm a second generation Floridian. We just happen to have that as our way of speaking. I'm from North Florida. You might say the focus of my campaign comes back really to a couple items, and I'll get some of these out so you can follow along where I'm at. Is there someone volunteer to kind of walk around and spread some of this? I'm going to put on my glasses in order to keep up with what I got. I guess the key thing is it's my belief that we have lost our republic. You know, I listened yesterday as the various candidates talked in various items we discussed. I didn't hear the word republic, okay? We have lost our republic. The key to our republic is our representatives and our representation, okay? My focus is to get us back our republic. I'm going to ask for those that are speaking if they could take their conversations outside, okay? Could y'all bring it down? Thank you. All right, so, you know, Ronald Reagan famously said that the government was not the solution, okay, that it was the problem. I see that as a smokescreen. It is the parties that are the problem. They aren't the solution, and it's the parties of influence. Unfortunately, the Libertarians are not a party of influence, okay, in our national elections. That's why we haven't won. There's two ways to become a party of influence. One is to grow the party. The other one is to diminish the influence of the others. My focus is to diminish the influence of the other parties. When we had our Constitution put in place, the people were represented to the government through their representative. Our founders understood we had to disperse power. If you don't disperse power, you've got a king. Along came this thing called parties, political parties. And what did they do? They inserted themselves between the people and the representatives. How did they do that? With money, with tribalism. Then they inserted themselves. Sure. That's all I've got. Well, wait a minute. Here. All right. Then they inserted themselves between the representative and our government. How did they do that? coercion. If you're a representative of a certain party and you don't vote the party line, what happens to you? You get primary, you don't get money, okay? You don't get the right assignments to a committee, okay? The parties are the problem, they're not the solution. So, why am I running? I got 4 planks, okay, to my platform. 2 of the planks I implement on the podium the day I'm sworn in. And those 2 planks are, I will be a nonpartisan president. What that means is I will not allow my administration or anyone in my administration to make decisions in a partisan manner. If it's not for the good of the country, okay, then that person needs to assess whether he's going to straighten up. And let me tell you, I don't have a problem with government employees. There's some bad apples, okay? But most of them are good employees, and they're going to push those people who are the bad actors. They'll push them out. Right now, they wouldn't dare do that because there's going to be retribution. You don't think retribution occurs? Read the newspaper, okay? So so you might say one of my planks is be nonpartisan. I don't want the spoils system, okay? I'd rather just take the guys that are in there so long as they agree that they will be nonpartisan. The next item is my plank, basically any legislation that comes to me, okay, I will veto unless it has a 2/3 approval. Well, wait a minute. That's veto proof. Yeah, that's how I came to the 2/3. But read my lips. If it's not 2/3, it's going to get vetoed. You got a choice in Congress now. Either you go ahead and you pass it with 2/3, or it's not going to go through. You need to create internal alliances and get, you might say, a consensus. So there will be a fight. There's no doubt in my mind. But what's occurring now is there's a lot of or bipartisan agreement on a number of items. But these items are not being put on the table because they want to hold them for a chip to trade later on. Who suffers? They don't suffer. The party doesn't suffer. We suffer. And let me tell you, these are life and death decisions. There are people out there suffering because of that there are bipartisan decisions that are being withheld for party reasons. So the next item is our representatives are not really our representatives. Money's buying our representatives, okay? We know what big money's out there. Look at the Florida election, right? Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. I got two planks. I'm going to wrap it up. All right. I'm a Floridian. I think people from Russia are foreigners. People from China are foreigners. And don't take it wrong, but people from Alabama, Georgia, Nebraska, okay, California, whatever, they're foreigners. They're foreigners, okay? I will lobby and get passed in each state a law that basically says if you're not qualified to vote for that representative, you are not allowed to give them money. If you're not qualified to vote, you're probably a corporation.
30 seconds.
You're out. So the last item I've got is we have to stop winner-take-all politics. Winner-take-all politics is caused by allowing majority-type voting in Congress. I will ask that you vote and get your representatives to sign on to 2/3 required voting in Congress on all measures. It's a congressional rules that they've set up on themselves that have created the problem, okay? So that's the reason I'm vetoing all legislation. Until Congress changes its rule, the two-thirds veto will stand, and I will force them to have alliances. With that, I'm going to let you return to the ball.
Thank you. Whoop, be careful. Okay, so here's what I think we're going to do. We want to continue with business. This is going to take a little while. So I'm going to get our people back in the room. We're going to vote. I'm going to move to suspend the rules to move on to the next agenda item, which is going to be platform. And at which point, I believe we have a motion coming up that has something to do with platform, so we can hopefully expedite it and get through it quickly and get to the rest of our agenda for today, get our regional caucuses set up while this happens in the meantime. So I'm going to ask Mr. Sergeant at Arms to violate the NAP and forcibly get our secretary and our treasurer in the room so we can get going. And the parliamentarian is right here working on some ballots. Oh, treasurer's there. There you are. Once we get our secretary and our vice chairman, then we'll go ahead and get going. Oh, there he is. Yes, Mr. Requero, you're recognized. Mike.
Is that mine?
Yes. There was an item added to the agenda yesterday, which is regarding regional makeups before regional caucuses, but because we recessed early yesterday, we still have the platform on the agenda. So that'll actually be the next item after we cover platform is the regional makeup motion.
Okay, what number?
That would be number 20, the new number 27.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we have our folks here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of allowing our votes to be tallied while we move on with business. Is there a second? Seconded by JJ. All right, seconded by JJ. All right, so this requires a 2/3 vote. All in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. So I have a motion now on the floor, requires a majority vote to go ahead and allow us to move on with business while our folks here tally our votes. Do I have a second? Seconded, Mr. Ray. All in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I apologize. We have some discussion. Mr. Requero?
Yes, is this in order?
Yes, with suspension of the rules, we can go ahead and make a motion to not follow Robert's Rules advice on this and essentially make our own rules so we can continue with business. Mr. Galob, did you have a motion? Or, were you seeking to be recognized?
No, just to make sure the mic was on. If someone
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead. We're going to move on with business from yesterday, which is the platform. And I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Mijas to come on up to the stage. And I believe that there might be a motion from someone from the body is seeking, and I would like to ask that person if they would like to make that motion at this time. After the platform for, okay. So we'll go ahead and do is, come on up here, Mr. Ricardo Mijas. We'll go ahead and get your platform report, and then we'll open the floor up to motions. Okay, excellent. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Be careful. Yeah, go ahead. All right, gentlemen, you have the floor. Once you finish your report, then yeah, let's go ahead.
My regular report, not the other votes. Okay, I got it.
Okay, we're gonna have to.
lunch today. Yeah, there's lunch today.
What time?
Lunch is at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
And it's also, that's also the,
We'll probably, yeah. Is this on? There will be a report on the screens, and if you're back on the cheap seats, feel free to come on up and adjust your eyes on the screen here so you can follow along with us, Mr. Mihai.
Yes, yeah, just to confirm that, you're not going to see much of anything if you're in the last 3 rows.
And I also just want to announce that in about 20 to 30 minutes on the room next door, we will be having a photo camera set up for portraits, for candidates, for leadership. Whoever would like a professional headshot, Mr. Jim Turney is putting it on. So in about 20, 30 minutes, you should be ready. And we'll most likely be having lunch around 1 o'clock. So just FYI. Yes, professional headshot.
Not the bottom. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, as it turned out, this voice of mine got this bad, especially for this meeting. So, if I can't finish because my voice doesn't work out to make it through the whole place, the whole time, Mr. Mikhaila is going to take over the rest of the meeting. So, but first I want to do an introduction to how we got this platform change and why we decided the way we did. Can everybody see the screens now? Okay. So there are the members of the committee on the screen. And basically, I'm going to read to you this and then ask you if you have any questions about it before we start the voting and all that. The idea for the proposed changes of the 2019 LPF platform started early that year when Steve Mikhaila, as chair of the platform committee, proposed to expand it. The current platform committee later came up with a plan to expand and improve it. This is the plan. Give each blank a short title to help identify it. Check for inconsistencies between blanks and reconcile them. Where blanks are very closely related, merge them into one because things together make for better organization. And link each blank to a separate document that is not part of the platform, which explains the current status of the issues it covers, why we favor it, its benefits, and suggest a political path and process for its implementation. We call these the explanatory documents. All of this was designed to help among ourselves, to help clarify among ourselves how our principles translate into what we advocate and our political actions, to help our candidates develop policy positions and arguments for these policies, and to help persuade the public that libertarian principles and policies promote freedom that benefit all. The platform will reach the general public through our website. After convention approval, I will have all of the planks on the platform. And each plank will be followed by a link to its explanatory document. That is, the planks will be in a separate page by itself. Then they will be linked to the explanatory documents, plank by plank. Since each explanatory document covers a distinct topic, they will appear on searches for those topics. This will bring us additional clicks on those pages beyond those searching for the LPF platform. And this will expose more people to libertarian ideas and contribute to promote them. In other words, a big part of this platform is making sure that it appears on our website in a form that's structured to maximize the exposure on the internet, on Google, based on the principles that Google recommends for design of platforms. So to me, that's the thing that will have the most effect about this platform is the fact that a lot of people are going to be reading the explanatory documents, and that by itself is an advantage because it means we will attract people who weren't even looking for the platform, but they're looking for the subject of the explanatory document, and that allows us to expose our ideas to them, even if they don't look at the platform itself. So that's the explanation. And now I will take any questions on this subject. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir, you recognize?
Yes.
Can you go up to a microphone, please?
Okay.
Please, yeah, let's get the mic. We have a mic here for you.
Yeah, my life's bad if I can't walk over here. Wayne Jackman, Orange County. So why do you think Google wants us to do that? Would be my first question.
Okay, well, Google has a series of rules that they have published on the internet recommending how you structure a website. And
I got you.
Some of the rules are this. First of all, make sure that you write subject-specific, constraint to certain, without getting too broad on each page. Each page should be a separate, distinct subject.
No, I got you. I guess let me go a little further on the question. Hey, they're the ones tracking this, and I can't think that it helps us out. And what we get out of it for doing it that way would be, I guess, really the
what
answer to
we
my
get
question.
out is that people will read our statements about why we think this platform is a good idea in each of the specific planks. So it will happen because if you structure it in a way that Google prefers, and they will rank it higher. Now, I can't guarantee how high they're going to be ranked, and I will also tell you that it takes about 3 months if it's a new website that we never used before. It will take about 3 months before the ranking means anything. That is, before they're close enough to the top.
I get all that. Okay, I'll cut it short. I'm sorry. My point was maybe we ought to think about doing it a different way, okay? Because I'm not sure that I really want to help out Google.
Because you don't want to help out Google? Well, if we don't help out Google, they won't help us. Because that's the way the business runs.
Again, I'll say, why are we helping out Google? Because I don't think that
Well,
trade-off's a
we're
good
not
one.
doing it. My purpose is not to help Google. My purpose is to assure that we get as high of a ranking as possible in Google, so people will read the explanatory documents and we can influence their opinion on the subject.
Mr. Requero, are you recognized, sir?
Well, this gentleman was first.
Yes, you on the left mic, can you please introduce
Hello?
yourself?
Yes, I'm Warren Clark in Seminole County. All right, so how many all use Google? Raise your hand. All right, See, this is why he is doing this. This is a web page that is being Googled. If they look up anything to, if they look up anything that has to do with liberty, it's going to go through Google, and it's going to pull up the web page. And this is what he's trying to do. It's Google AdWords, and basically what happens is if someone looks up a word, it's going to pull up the web page. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, somebody places a search term on Google or any other. Actually, I shouldn't be saying just Google because there are several other search engines like Bing and Yahoo, although their portion of the market is only about 10%. But when somebody searches, I say, let's say you're searching for government monopolies, which is one of the planks of our platform. We have a whole page on the subject of why we are opposed to government monopolies, how we're going to fix the problem, how can we convert monopolies into competitive industries. And because it's a subject that people are interested in, there will be searches on the subject, and they will rank at some point where eventually some people will click on it and read our position on that subject.
Mr. Requero, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition at the moment to this report. I understand the concept of what's being done, and it could make sense. However, the biggest issue is the scope of notice. I understand our bylaws don't say anything about scope of notice when it comes to platform. They just make a report and present it at convention. That's fine and dandy, but you have to really look for this. I had to look for this last night with a group of people that have been asking me about this. And throughout the weekend, I've talked to people that have asked me about this. And I said, have you seen it? No. Where is it, actually, Omar? Is there any printouts? Is there anything? I said, you have to kind of find it online. And then you have to click on more links and click on more links. And it's hard to understand and hard to take in all in one shot. I think it would be better if you just presented it piece by piece or a couple of planks at a time next year. So it's something that I want everyone to think about because you don't know what's inside there. I'm not knocking the committee in that you guys put anything bad inside there. All I'm saying is we don't know what's inside there, and this is like the Pelosi thing. We got to pass it to see what's inside of it. So, that's my opposition. Thank you.
Well, it's been published for at least the last 2 weeks on our website under the platform page, and I realize it's long because that was the whole point of what we're trying to do. Extend it to things that are more meaningful and more explanations. What we're voting on today is not the explanatory documents, which I was talking about. What we're voting on today is only the platform itself, which is the same number of planks that it had before with different wording on some of them.
See, that wasn't even explained. So, again, scope of notice. Nobody knows.
Sorry, that would be what?
It wasn't explained. So that falls into scope of notice. What are we changing and what are we doing? There was no notice.
Well, the notice...
I get it. The bare minimum that was done was publish it on the website. That's the bare minimum.
We did publish it on our website. So I don't know. Now, what other form of notice would you have wanted?
Let's try to keep it. I'd like
Yeah,
everybody to have an opportunity.
it's out of order to have a back and forth.
Yes, I was about to say that. So let's make sure we keep it back and forth. No back and forth, no crosstalk. Just ask a question or make a motion. That's it. Mr. D.L. Cummins is next to be recognized.
So I don't have a question, but I did want to offer some clarity on the whole Google in the way that Google works. So as a dominant search engine, they do things to create, to kind of enforce how people develop websites so that it works with their platform. So it's not really giving Google and helping Google out per se, it's helping yourself out because Google has said, look, this is how we're going to structure our platform so that your website works. One example, a while back, a couple of years ago, they basically said if you don't have a mobile-friendly website, your rankings will simply drop, period, end of story, and they forced everybody to conform to that if they wanted to be ranked up higher. So just as a little clarity there, I didn't have a question, so I don't know if that was out of order or not.
Thank you. That was exactly right.
All right, Mr. Carteret, you are recognized, sir.
Yes, I have a procedural motion that I'd like to move to handle all grammatical, spelling, and indexing for the document by a committee appointed by the EC. I'm going to read the motion now. This is just to save the delegation's time of having to edit this by hand.
Second.
Resolved that a committee of 3 to be elected by the LPF Executive Committee be authorized to correct article and section designations, punctuation, grammar, spelling and cross-references, and to make such other technical and conforming changes as are necessary to perfect the report of the Platform Committee. This motion would require a majority to pass.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. We have I believe Mr. J. Mark Barfield already seconded, so we'll now move on to discussion. Would anybody like to speak to this motion? Or Mr. Carteret, would you like to speak further on your motion?
I'm viewing this motion mostly to respect the time of the delegates, so that any motions regarding changes would be on content rather than technical.
So the impact of this motion, if it passes, would essentially be that the executive committee would create a committee to deal with non-substantial changes to the platform that might be of concern to the body, at which point non-substantial changes can be ironed out in committee instead of this meeting today, which would allow us to get through business much smoother. Is there any discussion on the current motion on the floor? Mr. Rose, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Rose. I have pause about supporting this specific motion here. While I do appreciate Mr. Carteret offering to save any time that we can today, grammatical changes, structuring context, stuff like that might seem minor, but they can also be perspective, depending on who is on this committee that will be appointed by the EC and not elected by this body here, which has the right to review any changes, I would think, in our platform. What might seem as a minor correction or fix to some might change the context entirely for another. So I generally will lean towards this body having the ultimate oversight when it comes to something as precious to our organization as our party's platform. And I would like to see maybe a more thorough evaluation by the platform committee itself, perhaps for anything relating to grammar, English corrections, what have you, before presenting it. And that way, once what we see here is what we will be voting on. Any changes that we make here will be final, and we don't have to leave this meeting every year wondering what exactly our platform is going to look like in the future. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Would anybody else like to speak to the current motion on the floor? Mr. Barfield, you're recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate the concern, Mr. Rose, but as being the person who's worked in depth in these documents for 2 years consecutively, I can tell you there are sentences that do not end in a period. There are clauses that do not have a comma. There are proper nouns that are not capitalized. So unless you would like this entire body to go over a couple hundred of those, and what our rules chairman is suggesting, which I believe is already in the bylaws correctly, if I'm wrong, platform has the capability of correcting minor errors. So what he's doing, he's actually expanding what's already in the bylaws of saying the EC will appoint a team that will make recommendations and bring them back to your elected EC to make these minor modifications. Being a grammar Nazi, we're not going to be changing anything that is in our platform or our laws. All we're changing is grammatical errors. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I concur with Mr. Barfield. He stated almost exactly what I had intended, but I would extend that despite our best efforts, Our committees do occasionally miss a point of punctuation, and I would trust a committee appointed under this resolution to respect its boundaries and to make those corrections that were necessary for grammar without changing meaning.
Is there any further discussion on this motion? Mr. Klass, you are recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, to emphasize on Mr. Rose's concern, it's something that, while of course can be very benign. I mean, I work on computers, I draft things all the time, and there are occasions where I end up missing this stuff too. But I have seen cases throughout the country where there have been, I mean, obviously bylaws are bylaws, and even a simple Oxford comma has determined the outcome of litigation against cities and against parties as it relates to bylaws, ordinances, and stuff like that. So I think the main point of concern is that even with this type of approval, that the importance is that we have to make sure that there is no material definition changes, and even in some cases, a period or a comma could potentially do that depending on the placement or lack thereof. So I think that's, so upon the establishment of a committee, like, there needs to be clear-cut communication between what the membership, of course, is actually voting for and how these sentences are supposed to be appropriately laid out. You get where I'm coming from on this, right? So I just want to make sure that everything ends up being 100% kosher, 100% proper in everything that we do, because the last thing I want, of course, is the party exposed to potential liability or conflicts simply because of some sort of minor thing. Thank you.
Mr. Parrish, you're recognized.
Thank you. All grammatical changes would be going back to the EC for approval, correct?
Is that what the motion says? Yes, it is correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else seek to be recognized? Mr. Detweiler, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, while I understand that, I mean, the platform is our message to the outside world that don't understand libertarians, we also elect representatives to handle the entire operation of our organization, to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to get people elected. If we can't trust a elected body to select a committee to figure out where commas and periods go, then why are we all here?
Mr. Carteret, you are recognized.
Yes, I would just like to address a previous point. The platform is not a legal document, it is not a governing document, so I don't see any liability concerns.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to seek to be recognized? Wayne?
I move the previous question.
All right, we have a motion and to move the question. We have a second, so we'll go ahead and close discussion and move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. Ayes have it. All right. That is correct. You're correct. I apologize. Thank you for pointing that out. So we'll go back to, so right now, excuse me, and thank you, there's a motion to call the question, which does require a vote. So all in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. All right, now we are on the main motion, the Carteret motion. So we will go ahead and close out discussion, call the question. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. All right, so we're currently on the platform committee report. Is there anything else you'd like to do at this time, sir?
Yes, we have to take the vote itself on the platform committee.
So it sounds like you would like to make a motion.
Yes, I'm about to make the motion. I move that the platform changes.
Please speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, I'm about to out of the microphone. I move that the platform changes in the document, proposed changes to the 2019 platform be accepted as a whole. Is there a second? Okay,
Seconded by Mr. Leibowitz. All right, we're currently open to discussion. Will the mover of the motion like to speak to his motion? Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Mijas?
Yes. I am very proud of what the work the committee did to make this platform. We have improved things and made it much clearer for everyone to understand. And we have also added all these explanatory documents for anyone who wants to really understand the issue even better. So I realize that it's possible that some of you may want to have some specific blanks modified in some way. But I don't think we have that much time to be able to do that. And I think that you have to make a decision. Do we spend the rest of the afternoon here, or do we accept it? Normally, I would not recommend accepting it without other than because of these circumstances. You still have the right, of course, to make motions to modify, but that is what I'm recommending based on what I know.
Thank you, Mr. Mijas. I believe Mr. Tanser, would you like to, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Tanser from Palm Beach County. First of all, I think it was a great idea to do the explanatory documents, but I did have one question. That we're not voting on adopting any explanatory documents, correct? We're just voting on the actual adopting of the platform changes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so therefore, I don't think the discussion of explanatory documents is very relevant to this meeting, so I think we should kind of move on about that. However, I should say that if one of the points of expanding the platform is to make it more searchable, well, explanatory documents are just as searchable as the platform itself if they're a regular web page, which gets to my main point. I think the platform is already too long, and out of principle, I will be voting no, and I would be happy to work with the platform committee formally or informally within the next year to help you guys, A, shrink the platform, and B, add to the explanatory documents or create them to the extent that that's needed. Thank you.
I have a comment for you. The explanatory documents
Right now,
will
I'm
be
sorry,
more
Mr.
searchable.
I apologize, but there's not going to be right now. We're
Oh,
open to
okay,
discussion, so it's only you'll have an opportunity to speak for or against or have discussion, but it won't be back and forth. Mr. Requero, you recognize it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that point of clarity. I continue to rise in opposition to the proposed changes. Again, I'm going to say the scope of notice, but the point I'm going to make here is that we just passed a motion to create a committee to fix grammatical errors. So we've had a committee over the past year basically just say right now that we have grammatical errors, and Mr. Klaus made a great point about how legislation and how things in court go wrong over a period or a comma in the wrong place. So we're passing a grammatically incorrect platform, or we're voting on it, proposed voting on it, and I think that this whole situation, voting on something, just sweeping changes, just like this, just to vote on it in one shot, I think that's a bad idea. If you haven't read the changes, I'm not saying there's anything bad in here or anything good in here, because I still haven't had a chance to read the whole thing myself. I caution everyone, please, don't vote this down, and let's come back to this. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and recognize myself. In 2018, I believe, 2018 to 2019, I was the previous platform committee chair. And the goal at the time was to make a comprehensive yet concise platform that exemplified what we believed as libertarians in the Libertarian Party of Florida in a clean, concise way in which it sounded like a cohesive document. We were able to achieve that last year. We did pass that document unanimously. We did make changes to the document, many changes, and of course the delegates did have the opportunity to review those changes. This time I did let the body know Saturday that we would be having this motion today. I believe that this document has been out for several weeks. We've advertised it through newsletters, on social media, etc., and there has been ample time to get this through. The platform is a very powerful piece of recruitment material. It allows us to go out and not only hold our people and our candidates accountable to be held to the platform, but it also acts as an educational tool for them and for other future Libertarian Party of Florida members. And I have made several conversions in my hometown, simply passing out the platform and allowing people to understand what we believe. And I think that these changes, as well as the explanatory document, will allow libertarians to say, okay, well, you believe in this, that, and the other thing. Well, why do you believe those things? So I'm going to rise in support of this of these changes and passing this motion. Mr. Luck, John Luck, you're recognized.
Joel Nugteski, Polk County. Point of information, are we voting on the proposed changes to the 2019 Libertarian Party platform, or are we voting on the floor motion that was presented by Mr. Philippe?
We are currently on the platform motion.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I rise to a point of order. I believe the chairman has taken a position on one side of a controversial issue. I do not believe the chairman should continue to moderate this conversation. I think that the question should be addressed and points of order should be decided by the vice chairman at this point.
Is there a motion to have the vice chairman?
That was a point of order, I believe.
3/4 or half? Majority? 2/3? I'll go ahead. I'll allow Mr. Barfield to take the gavel on the rest of this motion, if the body would desire, because I have made a position. Mr. Barfield, would you like to take over the gavel as chair, sir?
Okay, certainly. Okay, is there any further discussion on this motion?
May I be recognized? I believe earlier in the conversation you were also putting your input in on the rule change and the grammatical errors. I'd like to motion to have the secretary chair this vote.
What are we referring to, please?
When you were discussing the punctuation of the
I did not take thank you. I didn't take a position. I was merely explaining there is a difference.
Is there a second to the Wozniak motion?
Yeah.
Hearing none, motion does not.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? I believe the motion, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Secretary, is to approve the platform changes as presented by the platform committee. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none.
David Parrish would like to be recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there. Blinded. Okay. Okay. Mr. Parrish. Okay.
Oh, Mr. Parrish.
All right. Okay, I believe Mr. Sellers was up. I'm sorry.
I believe Mr. Parrish beat me to the mic.
Well, then we will, thank you, sir. We'll defer to Mr. Parrish first.
Okay, thank you. The platform has been up on the website for at least a couple weeks. I've read the entire document, and I would be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Similarly, I can confirm that the platform has been on the website for the required amount of time under the rules. However, it is quite lengthy. I have read the entire platform. I have my position on how I will vote on it, but I wonder if everyone in the room has made it through the rather lengthy document. As a result, I would like to make a procedural motion to postpone adoption to the next convention.
Okay, second. Okay, there's a procedural motion on the floor to postpone the changes to the next convention, and seconded by whom? Mr. Quartzer. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay. Mr. Rose, will you be speaking to the motion on this current motion on the floor? Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson, you are recognized.
As a member of the platform committee, I have to ask the question, if we postpone this platform until next annual meeting, does that mean that the platform committee will have no work in the coming year?
Are you asking for
Ye-
my opinion? We all have a lot of work to do.
No, but if the platform is tabled into the following year, what work can be done on a document that's been tabled?
I believe it can be refined, but I'll defer to Mr. Riccara, who's recognized.
Mr. Vice Chair, may we recognize?
Yes, sir. You're
Okay, so the answer to that would be this particular report would be locked in. However, it wouldn't stop you from just copying and pasting and working on it and presenting something else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rose, have you changed
I
your
would-
mind? Would you like to?
I will now speak on this immediate
Yes,
motion.
sir,
Yes,
you're right.
thank you, sir. Yeah, I would suggest that the work that the 2020 platform committee would do would be to refine all the grammatical, spelling, incorrect punctuation, and all the errors that they didn't have the time or scope to get to with this proposal. Sounds like a great idea to me.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to table? Second call. Any? Okay. Okay. Do we need 2/3 on this or simple? Okay. Okay. All in favor of the motion to table the platform committee recommendations for 2020, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Nay. Okay. So the motion on the floor is to adopt the platform committee recommendations for 2020. I'm sorry. The last motion failed.
Thank you. Division.
Okay.
Division. They call it division.
So there's no request for a division vote, so.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair, we call for division.
All right. Yeah, there's requests for division. Is there, I believe it requires a second. Second. Yeah, second. All right, thank you. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to divide the platform committee report into presumably its separate motions. It's been
Point of order.
What?
Point of
division, which so essentially the body's asking us to recount.
count. Yes. Not divide the motion. Yeah, count. Yes.
So that, I don't believe that requires, I think after that's seconded, I don't think there's any discussion, so that is privileged.
Okay,
So
okay,
what we'll do is that we will have the vote again, and what I'll do is all in favor will stand. I will count the standing members of the body, tally that vote, and then we'll do the nay vote. We'll also count so we can get an accurate representation of the body. All right, so let's start. All in favor, please rise, and I will go ahead and count the votes for our chairman. All in favor of the motion, please rise.
Please state the motion.
The motion is to table until next year. Right.
Postpone, actually.
So the motion is to postpone until next convention. Everybody that is in favor of the motion to postpone will rise. I will count those who are standing, who will sit as I count, and then we'll move on to the nay vote, who will also rise and then sit as I count so we can get an accurate. All right, thank you.
And the final vote was, Mr. Secretary?
31 ayes, 33 nays. I believe. 4 abstains. So 31,
Okay, so-
31 ayes, 33 nays, 4 abstains.
Okay, so we return to the main motion. Any last discussion before we call the vote on this?
Mark Tanser, Palm Beach County. I do call the question.
You're recognized. Thank you. There's a motion to call the question. Second. Any discussion of calling the question? Hearing none. All in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. Motion carries. Okay, to the main motion. All in favor of adopting the recommendation of the platform committee changes to the 2019 platform moving forward, we need 2/3 of this. Is it simple? Just to be clear. Stand by.
What would we do without Mr. Kennedy?
Stand by, lunch is getting closer. Do we have a ruling? Because we're starting to lose delegates at this point. So a simple majority? Okay, thank you. All right. Please don't leave. Okay. Please don't leave. We're almost done. Okay, all in favor of approving the platform committee's recommended changes to the 2019 platform, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Okay, division. Okay, yeah. Okay, any discussion? Oh, okay, all right, very good. Well,
All opposed, please rise. Motion passes.
Very good. The motion passes. Numbers. Okay. What was the final numbers again? It was. Okay, very good. Okay, it is now 5 minutes after 12 o'clock, and with that, I return the gavel to the chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, according to our agenda, we are supposed to adjourn for business today, but we do still have some items left on the agenda that we can pick up after lunch. And I believe, what time does the lunch event end? It's an hour. So we have lunch until 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and then.
So
yeah,
I've just
and then
learned that we do not have the other room until
Huh?
2 o'clock. So I would like to
I would like to go
suspend the rules for the purpose of proposing a business lunch. Do I have a second?
Let's move from the bottom.
Lunch is not the event is not ready until 2 o'clock. Oh, excuse me. So we have this room until 2 o'clock. So if we want to continue business, we can extend and have a business lunch where everybody can go and take 15 minutes to go grab your plates, come back, and I'm gonna make a couple motions to act some items on the agenda so we can get through this as swiftly as possible. So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules in order to propose that motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Parrish. All in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes without objection. All right, so I'm going to make a motion now to recess until 12:20, so we can all grab a plate, come back, and then continue business until 2 p.m. Yes. Yes. Correct. Is there a second for that motion? Seconded. Is there any opposition to that motion? Point of information.
Point.
Have all the votes been counted? Oh, they have. Right now, there's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, right now we're in the middle of a motion. The motion is to recess for 15
Point of
minutes.
information.
Point of information.
Joe Linktesky, Polk. If there's going to be a lot of in and out of the room, how are we going to guarantee quorum?
That's why I would like to allow 15 minutes of recess so that everybody can get settled in here. There may be some substantive motions from the floor coming up later if we get to that point, at which point we can do a quorum call if a member of the body, any member of the body can have a privileged motion to have a quorum call, at which point we will recount quorum to determine the amount of delegates that are in the room.
Noted.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take it up to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. I'll see you guys back here at 12:20. All right, man. I'm just Kern, go catch up. I think there is. I voted for it. I trust you. Check it out, and I hope I can cause it a street. Now, if you do that, the benefit calculation. Also, there will be an explanation as to what is on the screens, how it was counted, and what it means once everybody gets back in the room. So I'm sure there's some questions, but I'm going to have Adam and Philip come up here and explain to everybody so we know what we're looking at. I'll help you break down.
I know.
We could have gone full term last night, but we didn't.
food to the people that have gold or VIP, but if there's any leftover, we'll certainly divvy it out. So make sure that everybody. Yes.
As I understand it,
Yes, sir. We're gonna, oh, they're on the Facebook page. Yeah. Oh, you know, I think it was number one.
okay. Well, thank you for informing me.
I think it was number 3. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. Thanks.
Yes, that's next. I'll probably have the mover read the motion, so we don't have to read the whole thing, but we'll recognize him to make the motion.
And what I've done is I've sent this to you. So these are an attachment. shows the map. Show our house. He may even put the motion on. He's got it.
All right, guys, we're running a few minutes over. I know there's still some people grabbing food, but if we can just sit down and get ready to start business, we'll go ahead as soon as we get a few more delegates in the room. We'll start to get started here. Is it? Okay.
This is where I get my herding dog. God damn, I want to have a herding dog. Damn dog, learn how to herd my cat.
I was going to send this to you, but I've got it open if you want to read the motion. I've not logged it in yet. Motion yet, so it doesn't have a number.
I motion, come on, it's I move, come on. Anyways.
But it's this.
Break a leg.
Interesting. Where did they intend to establish the region? Is it Google? This is. I need.
So I haven't given this any review at all. Just got it yesterday.
You can tell John just to come in quiet and go just like the way going on. And they want to get that motion up on the screen, the email. Is John Thompson in the audience?
I need to know where it's going. It's not a complete motion. I'm hoping we can fix that real quick.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jote. Testing. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take a seat. We're going to go ahead and resume business. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this time is have Mr. Kokesh come up and explain how the results are tallied so we can make sense of what's on the screen. Mr. Kokesh? Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Libertarian Party floor. It's an honor to be included in this. Congratulations on a successful vote and process. You had 73 ballots and 146 votes cast, and there was one ballot for yay. So thank you for whoever that was, saving us having to count 2 more votes, yeah. You have 54 delegate slots, 16 are allocated to your executive committee. So of the remaining people on your list of potential delegates, which was 74, you were competing for 38 remaining delegate slots. If you got 3 votes or more, you are guaranteed a seat as a delegate. If you got 2 votes, you're on the cusp, and the secretary will be ranking those by the order they were filed. And you have 36 alternates. So congratulations on a great process and for being done before California finishes counting their votes from last weekend.
Give it up for Adam Kokesh, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now, next up, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules in order to strike committee reports from the agenda. Seconded by Mr. Requero, I believe? Yes. Yes, okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. All right, I'd like to make a motion to strike the committee reports from the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Aye.
Second, Mr. Coons. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there any objection to striking committee reports? Motion passes. All right. Next up in the queue, we have a motion regarding regional makeup. The mover is John Thompson. Is Mr. Thompson here? Mr.
Sure.
Thompson, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, in order to get the business done. Hello, John Thompson,
Yep.
St. Lucie. Out of respect for the body's time and the remaining hours we have today to get the business done, I'd like to table this motion until next year.
All right, we have a motion to table the proposed, wait a minute. If your motion never got a second, it hasn't been moved yet, so theoretically you could just choose not to move the motion. At this point, we can move on with the agenda. Would that be your, would you like to move the motion to table it for next year, or would you like to simply not move the motion?
I would like to postpone. I'd like to move it and then.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone till next year, this motion, so it'll be added to our old business for next year. We have a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, is there any objection to tabling this motion till next year for old business? Mr. Carteret?
Yes. I would actually prefer to refer it to rules so it can be amended. Because it doesn't actually state where it would be in the governing documents or anything, I don't think the motion is as written complete. I think it would be better if we made it a complete motion for next year.
Is there any well, let me ask the mover and the seconder, are you amendable to Mr. Carteret's suggestion?
It's a friendly amendment. I'm
Okay,
amenable,
and
yeah.
there's no objections from the body? All right, so we did a little friendly amendment there. Without objection from the body. So now you would like to make a motion to defer to Rules Committee, is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Carteret? All right, motion's on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Mr. James Ray. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Requero, you're recognized.
Just for clarification, so I understand the idea that you were trying to propose, John. We would be putting this in the governing documents now, the regional makeup? Is that what rules we'll be trying to?
I believe the motion does not specify where in the rules that motion would sit or how it would be integrated into our current documents. So the suggestion from Mr. Carteret is to give it to Rules Committee to make those suggestions for next year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and bring it to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. All right. So next is item number 27 on the list, which are our regional caucuses. So at this point, how it goes is each region will meet up at a different part of the room, regions 1 through 14, and at that point you will meet with your regional members of that region, at which point you will hold a caucus to nominate and then elect your region representatives. Once the caucuses have concluded, I will call on each region to let us know who their nominee or who their winner is of that caucus for region representatives. At which point we will announce the winners, and I'll be giving out some affiliate support goodie bags with an airdrop of supplies for you guys. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll get started. I know you guys are eating lunch, but this does mean that we'll have to move around the room. So my suggestion is that, let's say, who here is from Region 1? Region 1? Region 1, please identify the gentleman back there and
Dean Peterson.
I'm sorry, Dean Peterson, Mr. Peterson in the back, and caucus with the gentleman. Who here is from Region 2? Region 2. Anybody here from Region 2? Why don't we announce which counties are in each region? That way people know who they're a part of, especially if they're new. We'll make this a little bit
Mr. Chair,
less confusing. Yes, Mr. Requero.
if I can offer a suggestion,
Yes, sir.
I would say go through the regions and then say, hey, does anybody feel like they're left out? And then you could do that, what you're trying to do right now.
All right, Region 1 includes Escambia County, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton. Region 2 includes Holmes, Washington, Bay, Jackson, Callahan, Gulf, Liberty, and Franklin. Region 3 includes Gadsden, Leon, Wakulla, Jefferson, Madison, and Taylor. Region 4 includes Hamilton, Sewanee, Lafayette, Dixie, Gilchrist, Columbia, Union, Bradford, and Alachua. Region 5 includes Baker, Nassau, Duval, Clay, and St. John's. Duval. Region 6 includes Levi, Marion, Citrus, Sumter, and Lake. Region 7 includes Putman, Flagler, and Volusia. Region 8 includes Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Polk. Region 9 includes Osceola, Orange, Brevard, and Seminole. Region 10 includes Manatee, Sarasota, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands. Region 11 includes Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, Okeechobee, and Glades. That was Region 11. Region 12 includes Charlotte, Lee, and Collier. Region 13 includes Hendry, Palm Beach, and Broward. Region 14 includes Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. Right. Is everybody familiar with where they're supposed to be? Everybody's familiar? All right, so we'll go ahead and break out into our regional caucuses, and we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, that's the problem. So once you have your region caucuses completed, I will be calling on each region to sound off the nominee, at which point you can just go on the microphone and we'll line up and we'll state our nominees so the treasurer, secretary, can report it.
I don't want to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, we do need all of
There's no sign out sheet.
You might too. I mean, I'm not. Barring Josh getting hit by a bus, I'm not running.
right, everybody. If everyone has completed their caucuses, or once they, no, we still have some active caucuses. Okay, we'll give it a few more minutes.
Just for the record, Region 9 had all 4 chairs present at the convention.
Have all caucuses completed caucusing? Okay, we still have one caucus that's close to being finished. Mr. Secretary,
I realize it. I'm running. I've never.
That's probably bad. I'm there every other day.
I'll get a copy of this.
I feel bad. I was watching the meeting.
All right. Have all affiliates finished with their nominations and votes? Sounds like it. Okie dokie. All right, I would like for a representative from each region or the new region rep to line up at the microphones at each side of the room, and we'll go through. I'd like for each person that I recognize to state which region that they're from, who their nominee is, and then come up here on stage, and I have some goodie bags for you guys to bring back to each of your active local affiliates. So we'll give it a few minutes to everybody to get up, new region reps to get up to the mic, or representative from your region to sound off our new EC. We'll just do whoever comes up to the mic.
I have no idea. We'll figure it out.
Would it be easier?
Right now we're in order of who's in front of the mic.
Yeah. All right, you know, we'll do it by order of region. So we'll have region 1 go up to the microphone first.
I'm 8.
Oh, region 1, go ahead.
Region 1 is elected Spencer Garber.
Region 1, Spencer Garber. Next up is region 2. Anybody here from region 2? Mr. Detweiler, are you region 2?
No, there's no one here from the body that is currently registered as a libertarian in there to vote for me, so it'll be by appointment later on in business.
Understood. All right, region 3. Region 3, like you said, Mr. James Ray, you recognize?
No,
Oh, I thought you were.
I was just making sure it worked.
Oh. Thank you for your service. Is region 3 here? Anybody representing region 3? Well, region 2 or 3, region 4. Region 4, so I'd like to come up to the mic and. Doesn't matter. You can come out here. It's closer. All right, who's your nominee, sir?
So we selected Jordan Bosserman as a Region 4 representative and Joe Maraca for Region 4 alternate.
Excellent. Thank you. And how many active affiliates do you have in your region?
We have 2 active affiliates and 1 waiting to be affiliated.
So why don't you go ahead and grab 3 bags? Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Region 5, Mr. Mike Cassidy, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Region 5, we've elected, myself re-elected, I guess, Michael Cassidy, Region Rep, and David Salisbury as our alternate.
All right. Thank you, guys. Mr. Cassidy, how many active Libertarian Party affiliates do you have in your region?
Currently 2 of 5, looking to have all 5 of 5 by the end of March.
All right, excellent. Why don't you come up here and grab some bags? That would be awesome. Region 6. Region 6, you're recognized.
Yes, my name is Daryl O'Kane, Region 6. We selected Noda for the region rep position, so he or she will have to be selected. Active, we have Marion, Citrus, and I'm not sure else. Lake's also active, so that's.
So Region 6 is Noda,
Mhm.
and then who would be the best person to be able to get some of these bags to those county affiliates? Would that be yourself?
I'll take them.
Okay, come on up and grab those bags.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Two affiliates? So we'll get 2 bags for you. Region 7.
Hi. We were.
Tegan?
Thank you. We selected me. Myself. Yeah.
All right.
Round 2. And then our first alternate is Jonathan Lachey. Our second is John Luke Tusky.
Jonathan Lachey. Luke Tusky. You have that, Mr. Secretary?
Tegan and Loche.
Lachey, yes. Lachey and
Okay.
John. And how many active affiliates do you have in your county? Or in your
One.
region? One? Oh, come on up and grab a bag then for your your county. All right. Region 8?
Yep, Brian Zamato with Region 8. We elected myself as the region rep with John Luke Teskey also as the alternate.
Ooh.
So, dual role. And we have 3 active affiliates currently.
Fantastic, sir. Come on up and claim your prize.
All right.
Region 9.
I'm Warren Clark, and Region 9 has elected Donna as regional rep, and I will be the alternative rep. And we have 4 active affiliates.
And your name, sir?
Warren Clark.
4 active affiliates. Let's see. We have a couple bags left. Okay, so we'll grab them later? Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir. Region 10.
Is there, I don't think, is there anybody?
Region 10 is here. James Ray, Sarasota County. These 2 tried to elect me, and I didn't want it. I've gotten all I want. I want to be a delegate, and I got that, and I'm going to Texas. I'm going to have a great time. Don't know who I'm supporting. But we're going, I guess it's with NODA. I mean, there's one active, we need 1 bag, okay? But it's like an anarchy here.
Come on down and claim your prize. So there's no region representative for Region 10 at this time? So you're volunteering? Has she been nominated? You'll be receiving a phone call from me later. Region 11.
Region 11, John Thompson was selected again, as I was the only one here. So, thank you.
Congratulations. How many active affiliates do you have in your county?
0 at the moment.
Region? 0? All right, you get no bags.
That's right.
Region 12. Anybody here from Region 12? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, no Region 12. Region 13? Mr. Requero?
Yes, Region 13, Broward County, Palm Beach County, and Hendry County, which is currently unaffiliated, has selected Lee Kortzer as his region rep, myself, Omar Recurl, as the first alternate, and Mark Tanser as the second alternate.
And how many active affiliates do you have in your region?
So we have 3 counties total. 2 of them are active, and historically some of the oldest in this state.
Excellent. Come on down, claim your prize, sir. And finally, we have Region 14.
Mr. Chairman, Tony Sellers reporting for Region 14. We have selected as our regional representative Mr. Joshua Curtis.
All right, we have Josh Curtis and alternate
Our
Dennis.
first alternate, Dennis Missigoy.
Are there any other alternates?
Our second alternate, Mr. Mike Kane.
Excellent. I didn't know Mike would take it up. I'm just as shocked as. It sounds like Mike. All right, excellent. So I want to give a round of applause to our new region reps. Mike's a good friend of mine. I'm going to put him to work. Next up on the agenda, we have struck committee reports. We will be moving past those, and we'll move on to item number 29, which is new business, floor motions, constitution. So now is the time to make any motions from the floor related to the constitution of the LPF. Is anybody seeking to be recognized? Mr. Requero, you're recognized, sir.
Point of information, are there any on file, like turned in previously ahead of time?
Yes, there is.
But you still have to move, but they still have to move from the floor.
So we Ms. Gilmore, you recognized?
Yes, point of order for all of and congratulations to all the new, if I may make an announcement. All of the new regional reps, we wanted to have packages here for you with the new regional reps guide. We were not able to get enough printed. I couldn't, it's my fault. But it's online. Please take this down, go there, noodle around on that page, learn what's on that page. It's very important for you to know it. We're going to put together a training class for all new people on the EC. But for now, docs.lpf.org. There's a section just for EC members. Go there. Read the regional rep guide. And it will be invaluable to you. Take a look at the affiliates guide. That is an awesome book that will help as you try to affiliate places, and it'll help ongoing affiliates. Anybody who's involved in an affiliate, check that out. That's under the For Affiliates page at docs.lpf.org. And we'll get back to you about training. We've got some really neat stuff lined up. We're not there yet, but we will get it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. So we do currently have some filed constitutional motions, which you can find in your black book, which should be at any of the tables up front. And if you're interested in going through those books and looking at the current constitutional motions or the bylaws or standing rules motions that have already been filed, there will be an opportunity to motion any of those currently filed motions, but it would need to be moved from the floor at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rose?
Yes, sir. At this time, I'd like to move submission 20-CF002, title motion to amend language. Two.
So submission 20 CF002, the mover is Mr. Chris Rose, title motion to amend language. Mr. Rose, would you like to read your motion?
Does it require a second first before I read the text?
Yes, I apologize. So the motion is titled motion to amend language. Is there a second? Seconded. Go ahead, Mr. Rose.
The text is I move to amend Article 3, Section 3, Paragraph A from no offices shall be combined and all offices shall be filled, to read no seats no seats shall be combined. In compliance with Florida law, all officer seats shall be filled.
I'll second that.
Sorry, I have a point of inquiry.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Carteret.
Is it your intention then that offices could be combined?
Is that a question for Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Rose, would you like to respond to that question?
The first sentence, as it would be amended, reads, no seats shall be combined. Since every position on the EC is a seat, but only a select position are officer seats, that was my intention.
That would not be consistent with the language of the document.
We're trying to change it.
Mr. Rose, would you like to respond?
Would Mr. Carteret have a
Mr. Carteret,
amendment, perhaps?
Bound on.
Sorry. We have in the past in the Rules Committee have separated offices and seats at a few different points in the Constitution. That was intentional. So because offices have certain obligations under statute, as well as under corporate charter, that are separate from seats. And we've actually used that language as a distinction at other points in the Constitution. I just wanted to make sure we're clear on this.
Is there any further discussion on this motion? Mr. Turney, are you seeking to be recognized? No? Ms.
Yeah,
Gilmore,
but
are you seeking?
after this motion.
Okay. Ms. Gilmore, are you seeking to be recognized?
Thank you. According to the corporate charter that was filed when we created this organization as a corporation, directors at large are also mandatory. They are listed on the corporate charter, so you can't just say officers because they're not officers. So that's first issue. Second issue is the kind of squidginess between seats and officers. I would move to defer this to, I would move to refer this to rules.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to defer to rules. Is there any discussion on this topic? All right, we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. Is there any objection for moving it to Rules Committee?
Second.
Hearing none, motion passes.
Who seconded it?
Oh, second by Mr. Rose.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, any other, now is an opportunity, Mr. Turney, you were seeking to be recognized.
Just a point of information that
Information?
the portrait session is going to end before terribly long. There's no line if you have not taken your portrait for a future candidacy or whatever. Let's please go over to where we had lunch.
Thank you, Mr. Turney. Mr. Rose, seeking to be recognized, sir.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to move submission 20-CF003, title motion to amend language.
Is there a second? Second, Mr. Requero. Mr. Rose, you have the floor.
Text of the motion is, I move to amend Article 3, Section 3, Paragraph C from every LPF Executive Committee office and seat shall be deemed vacant following the rules provided in Florida law for political party office vacancies. In addition to those rules, unexcused absence from 3 monthly Executive Committee meetings or 6 bi-weekly Executive Committee meetings shall be considered a vacancy. To read, every LPF Executive Committee office and seat shall be deemed vacant following the rules provided in Florida law for political party office vacancies. In addition to those rules, except where excusals are provided for in statute, more than 2 unexcused absences by any Executive Committee member in a consecutive 12-month period shall be considered a vacancy. And then I would like to speak further on the motion.
Go ahead.
It has to be seconded.
Oh, I apologize. I thought we already seconded it.
Yeah, Omar seconded.
Omar Requero seconded
I'm sorry.
it. Yeah, Mr. Rose is speaking to his motion.
When I was compiling this, this was a copy and paste error. I have one word in here which I didn't intend to throw in there, but I didn't catch it in time before I compiled it and hit the submit button. So my understanding is that if I was to support voting this down, it would be up for amending. Is that correct?
Mr. Rules Chair?
Is the amendment within scope of the notice, sir? How substantive a change are we talking about?
I'm wanting to remove one word from the last sentence. I'm wanting to remove the word unexcused from unexcused absence.
So more than 2 absences.
Correct. What the motion that I had in mind would have read more than 2 absences. The preceding sentence to that.
That is a greater change than provided in the scope of notice.
Yes.
Okay, in that case, well, I will still support the motion because I think this is still better than what the current language is.
Okay. So for those following along, we have a motion on the floor which would effectively amend our bylaws to, instead of allowing 3 unexcused absences, Constitution, I apologize. 3 absences, currently, in addition to the rules, unexcused absences from 3 monthly executive. So in any given term, if an EC member has 3 unexcused absences, under our current Constitution, that will create a vacancy and that person will automatically forfeit the role on the EC. As chairman, I can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As chairman, I can have I can mark an absence as excused. For instance, if somebody is on a plane or have a family emergency or what have you. So the new language would read essentially that according to Florida state statute, we would follow the state policy. Otherwise, any more than 2 unexcused absences within a consecutive 12-month period shall be considered a vacancy.
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Information, Mr. Carteret.
From my reading, this looks like it would remove the chairman's power to excuse.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So under this, so in any 12-month period, if someone is unable to be on the EC for any reason, I would not have the power to excuse that person, and if they have 2 consecutive absences within a 12-month time span, they would be removed from the executive committee.
2 absences?
Within a 12-month period. Yeah. More than 2 absences. Excuse me, more than 2 absences within a 12-month period. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Gilmore, you recognize?
I have a question and a possible motion to follow. Is this not touching on a recent amendment and to the Constitution, and is it affecting language that was recently changed, and can we still do that in accordance with the rules?
Mr. Carteret, would you like to speak on that?
We did not amend the officer section of the Constitution at this convention. We amended the membership section.
All right.
So in which case we would be able to make this motion. Is there, Mr. Rose, you seek to be recognized, or if not,
I'll
Mr.
defer.
Aquero, you're recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thinking about this, I think I'm mostly in support. It's my understanding that it's not 2, it's what's already there. So it's 3 unexcused by Florida law, if I'm not mistaken, 103095, or I'm trying to think which statute it is. It might be 103095. Yeah, it's 3 consecutive already, plus what Mr. Rose is adding is 2 more, if I'm...
I don't believe that's the motion. I believe what this motion would do is if there are more than 2 unexcused absences within a 12-month period, and I don't believe, and let me just double check here.
Is that the official translation, Mr. Chair, or is that the mover's intent?
I wouldn't be able to make excuse absences, right? Correct. So, because based on this amendment, the chair or the EC, I believe the EC as well, would not be able to vote. So essentially, if anybody misses 2 meetings in a 12-month period, they are no longer on the committee, and there's nothing anyone can essentially. There's no process for an excused absence.
So that's what's being changed, the process of excused absences versus how many total.
Under the current rules, if somebody is unexcused for 3 times during the term, or 6 times during biweekly meetings, which we typically don't do, we do just monthly meetings. So if they're absent 3 times under the current rules, they're axed from the EC. The chairman has the authority to excuse them. Under the new rules, it's the same 3 times within a 12-month period with no ability to be excused.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if in that sense, in that translation of what you just described, I would rise in support and encourage my fellow delegates to pass this. Thank you.
Mr. Tanser, then Mr. Barfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Tanser, Palm Beach County. Chris had suggested that we remove unexcused from that, but we couldn't because that would have been a substantive change. So we were just talking about unexcused, but I don't think that's relevant here because the chair will still be able to excuse absences based on the current language that's being proposed, as far as I understand.
Mr. Carteret.
The exact language is, in addition to these rules, except where excusals are provided for in statute. The only excusals provided for in statute are for those persons who are elected officials on duty. That's it. There are no excusals provided for in statute for somebody who's having a baby, anything.
Mr. Barfield.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to take a realistic stance on what this motion means. What it infers that if someone misses 2 meetings in a 12-month period, I believe it was, regardless of whether, thank you. What this means, if someone misses 2 meetings within a year for whatever reason, mom dies, you die, whatever reason, the chairman can't show an act of reasonable compassion and excuse that person. It also means that if someone misses 2 times within a 12-month period, that creates a vacancy. What does it mean to have a vacancy on the EC? That means we have to find someone who's willing to fill the vacancy. How many regions are vacant right now? I believe 4 or 5. 4. Okay, so we can't fill all the regions that were here today. We need volunteers desperately, folks. We need people that are willing to serve desperately. And if we kick them out for 2 reasonable reasons for missing within a 12-month period, how many of you ever miss a day from work in a 12-month period? We all miss as many days as we can get away with. So, but seriously, if you have 2 reasonable reasons to miss, this amendment would prevent you from continuing to serve, and it would also force the EC into dropping all its business, such as supporting candidates that we hear a lot about, such as supporting your affiliates that we hear a lot about, such as raising money that we'd like to do, such as raising membership that we'd like to do and getting the message out, which I would like to do, so that we can now hold elections and we can spin off into other process. So I'll be voting vehemently no on this.
I guess,
Mr. Rose, are you seeking to be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I need further clarification, again, to Mr. Chancellor's point from the Rules Committee Chair as to how this would take away the Chair's authority to excuse, since the language, barring what I had intended to submit, the language that we are voting on says more than 2 unexcused absences in a consecutive 12-month period shall be considered a vacancy.
Mr. Carteret?
Would
you like to continue your sentence?
I will defer for him, but I have another point as well.
Mr. Carteret?
Very good. So yeah, in your wording, it says, except where excusals are provided for in statute. That is the only excusals provided for in statute are for absences to perform duties of elected office. There is no provision in statute for a chair to excuse. Those permissions are in our governing documents, but the Constitution would supersede that and eliminate the chair's ability.
Mr. Rose, would you like to respond?
The second point that I have is that you don't have to be present on the executive committee. You can be, you can be proxied. My intent is not to force anyone who cannot make the appearance in an executive committee meeting to have a vacancy or an absence rather against them. You can still have asked to have yourself proxied. So this would only, in my opinion, this would only come down on the people who do not attend the meeting, do not ask to be proxied twice in a consecutive 12-month period.
Unfortunately, even if you do choose a proxy, your absence is recorded as unexcused.
Correct.
So only finding a proxy only means that you get to extend your vote onto somebody else, but physically not being in a meeting does count as an absence. Mr. Court, you recognize?
Yes, I wanted to point out from a regional rep standpoint, we now have alternate regional reps. So if for some reason, God forbid, I'm in an accident, I can't be there, I have an alternate who would step in. But under this rule, if that occurred twice in 12 months, I'm done. And I don't know whether that is the intent of Mr. Rose or not, but that is the effective execution of this amendment as proposed.
Mr. Parrish, you're recognized.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'd just like to echo what Mr. Barfield said. That is all.
I know what statute says.
We have a motion to call the question, seconded by Mr. Coons.
I know what Florida.
All right, so we currently have a motion to call the
In
question.
addition to what the law says, more than 2 unexcused.
Are you requesting something?
No.
Okay.
This takes precedence.
All right, so we currently have.
Well,
a
I mean,
motion-
I had a motion, but I mean, it's already too late now.
It's too late now. We currently have a motion on the floor. I believe it is a privileged motion, so there's been no discussion. But we'll pass with a 2/3 vote. All in favor to call the question, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Rewording of this, but there's.
Ayes have it. We'll go ahead and move on to a vote of the main motion. All in favor of the main motion, please say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. Constitutional. Are there any other motions from the floor for amendments to our Constitution that wish to be moved? Mr. Rose, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to move 20-CF005, title motion to amend language.
Is there a second? Seconded. Mr. Rose, you can go ahead and speak on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Text of the motion is, I move to amend Article 3, Section 4, Paragraph F of the Constitution. From executive committee members shall present a written monthly report to the executive committee describing the performance of their duties. All such written reports shall be accessible to all LPF members. In addition, executive committee members may present verbal reports during regular business meetings. To read, executive committee members shall present a written monthly report to the executive committee describing the performance of their duties. All such written reports are due the day before the next regularly scheduled executive committee meeting and shall be accessible to all LPF members. In addition, executive committee members may present verbal reports during regular business hours.
All right, is there any discussion on this motion? Mr. Requero?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this. I find that this particular change is in line with the Members' Bill of Rights that was passed at this particular convention. So I would ask my fellow delegates to please support this motion. Thank you.
I have a question.
Mr. Barfield, you're recognized.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this stated in our standing rules currently?
Mr. Cataret, would you like to speak on that?
Is it the reporting requirement in our standing rules? Let's assume for the moment, until I'm corrected wrong, that it is. So it is our policy that each of us and each of the region reps report monthly on the activity of their various responsibilities. The act of this, to approve this, it would move it into our bylaws, which would make it a mandate. However, we have a mandate here, but with no ramifications of failure to. This is a constitutional amendment. Oh, it is? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. But by moving this into the Constitution, this would move a procedural requirement into essentially a mandate. And I question whether a procedure of this nature why this should become a mandate, especially if there's no ramifications for failure. All of us work hard. All of us, probably 8 out of 10 of us submit those reports, those all important reports, in a timely manner. The 1 or 2 that don't submit reports tend to dribble in a bit late. We understand that. Stuff happens, or other S words. But I really think the electorate is here to promote the cause of libertarianism, to promote the cause of our politicians, or getting our politicians in office, to get more members as a participating in this party and get more money so we can do stuff, rather than sitting around writing reports or fearing non-existent ramifications. So I'm sure the reporting requirement's well intended. It's our responsibility to let each of you know what we're doing. But if we're sitting around in fear of missing, it's 12:01 a.m. or something, and so we're going to get slapped on the wrist or something like that, I don't think we're being very productive as your representatives. So again, I do respect the fact that we should be reporting to each of you what we're doing, but you know, this is not kindergarten. So let's be adult. Let's do our job to the best of our ability and recognize there's some flexibility in what the best of our ability is. Thank you.
Mr. Carteret, did you? No? Okay. Mr. Parrish?
Yes, I don't believe this will actually solve any of the problems of getting people to submit written reports, so I'll be voting this down.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Sellers?
I also rise in opposition to this amendment. Simply put, as a matter of rules theory, a procedural matter like this does not belong at the high level of the Constitution, which requires such a large threshold to change and carries so much weight. Procedural matters are typically relegated to the standing rules. That's where we cover it now. That's where we should cover it going forward.
Is there any further discussion on this motion? Mr. Crow, are you thinking about being recognized?
Yeah. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to come up with a compromise here because some of what has been said so far is political grant staging. When I was vice chair for 3 years, I made a report every single month. You can still find those reports. I have copies of them on Google Drive. I publicized them on a public website that I paid for. I went out of my way to get those reports, and yet I sat on ECs, and I tried as hard as I could to enforce this, but in a respectful way. We have to, we owe it, we passed a Members' Bill of Rights. We owe this to our members, what we're doing. We have to be accountable, and it needs to be readily available. And it's also something that you, Mr. Chair, can use as a marketing tool just to show what's going on in Region 12, to show what's going on in Region 5, 13. When we don't have reports, we don't know what's going on. And one of the things that helped me do my job as vice chair when I went to a particular county was I had a report and I knew what was going on, and I would talk to the chair and say, hey, how's that project going? But when I don't know what's going on, it was a little, it's a little difficult to do your job. I understand the issue with putting this in the Constitution. I think I move to commit this to rules because I think rules the three of you are on rules now, and I think you can figure out where this exactly belongs. But I don't want it to fail right now because if it goes into the standing rules, this EC will not enforce the rules.
Sorry.
They're not going to want to put this in the standing rules. It requires a 2/3 vote of the EC, and generally, whenever rules have come up historically to kind of, govern us, we don't like it. So it's better when the delegates who are here now, or the Rules Committee, come up with a fair way for our governing body to conduct business properly. So with that being said, I move to commit to rules.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Barfield seconded. We have a motion to defer this motion to Rules Committee. We have a second. We're now up for discussion. Would anybody like to speak on this? Wayne?
Yeah, I'll rise in opposition to the original motion. I don't think we need to put this to rules. I think this is going to be voted
Point
down.
of order. We're discussing the motion currently on the floor.
Yes. Only the current discussion is only limited, and it has to be germane to the motion to either approve or not approve the motion to defer.
Okay. Well, then my reason would be I think we should vote this down.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing no, we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. All in favor of moving this motion, deferring it to rules, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion fails. So we're back to the main motion, which is 20 CF 005. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Wayne, you're recognized.
I move the previous question.
We have a motion to move the question. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Courter. This is a privileged motion. We'll go ahead and take it to a vote. All in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion passes. We'll go ahead and we'll now have a vote on the main motion. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. Is there any other discussion right now for constitutional amendments? Mr. Rose, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move submission 20-CF007, title motion to amend language.
Is there a
Sir?
second? Mr. Sellers, you're recognized.
I'd like to call for quorum count.
We have a call for quorum count. So I'd like to, at this time, is that for everybody with a black delegate name badge, please stand up. We currently stand at 56, 57, 58. 58 total. 58 total members here for quorum. So a majority vote would be 29. Let's see where we're at. Mr. Rose, you have a motion. Was that motion seconded? Is my math off? Oh, you're right. Yeah, 30 would be a majority vote. You're correct. Thank you, Wayne. So there's a motion for submission 20 BF 008, title motion to amend. Is there a second?
Oh, I thought you said it was 7.
Oh, was it 7? I'm sorry, Mr. Rose. Which motion?
7.
7. Is there a second?
CF007.
Motion will require a second to move on. We have a second. Sam? Sarah, sorry. Mr. Rose, you can speak on your motion.
Text of the motion is, I move to amend Article 9, Section 1 from candidates shall be considered official LPF candidates if they are registered to vote as members of the LPF and register as candidates with the Florida Division of Elections and meet all requirements of local, state, or federal office to which they seek election. To read, candidates shall be considered official LPF candidates if they have signed the NAP pledge, are registered to vote as members in good standing with the LPF, and register as candidates with the Florida Division of Elections and meet all requirements of local, state, or federal office to which they seek election.
So it seems a substantial change here is the addition of the NAP pledge. Is that correct?
There is one further change.
Mr. Federer?
Good standing is also a change.
So it moves from, in addition to the current requirements, includes the NAP pledge as well as good standing. Is there any discussion on this item? Mr. Peel, you're recognized.
I rise in opposition to this motion, more on procedural grounds than on disagreement with the content. In the sense, it adds the requirement of signing the NAP pledge, where I believe the intent was to require candidates to be LPF members, but this is not exactly the same thing, and that is a topic that has been debated for, I believe, every convention I've attended. So I do think that it's a worthwhile endeavor to consider what qualifications for candidates we should have. On the other hand, we have had that debate many years in the past. I would suggest moving this to the Rules Committee to propose an amendment next year where we can consider that without affecting our 2020 election. So I move to commit this to Rules.
We have a motion and a second, Mr. Quero. Is there any discussion on this amendment or on this motion to defer? Mr. Requero, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mr. Peel. Let's defer this, please, and because this is something that we definitely need to kind of get ironed out because we got rid of the selection committee, and we never really had a streamlined process, and it's always somewhat controversial. So we want to support our candidates, so let's do that. Thank you.
Mr. Sellers, you're recognized.
I support the motion to commit.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to voice my opposition to commit to rules for the sake of time. This is the year 2020. This is the election season. We're not going to have another annual convention before this coming election. As it sits right now, anyone can file with the supervisor of elections to vote LPF. They can run as a candidate in a partisan race under LPF. We can't do anything about that. As our Constitution says, though, that's state law, election law. As our Constitution says, though, right now, anyone who does that is our official candidate. I want something to be able to distance this party from anyone that goes down there and files to run, to where I can say we will support our official candidates, but not just anyone. This leaves us liable.
Ms. Peel, you're recognized.
I believe that doing something for the sake of making it to a short deadline increases the chance of making us liable by passing something that could have unintended consequences. So for precisely the reason that it is close to the elections, I would not want to do something that would have unintended consequences. So I would say submit it to rules or commit it to rules.
Is there any further discussion on this topic? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. All in favor of deferring this item to Rules Committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Is there any further constitutional amendments from the floor? Mr. Rose, are you seeking to be recognized? No?
Not Constitution, no, sir.
Okay. So if there's no further constitutional amendments, we'll be moving on next to our bylaws amendments from the floor. Would anybody like to seek to be recognized for a bylaws amendment? Mr. Mijas, you're recognized.
Thank you. On the bylaws, section 5. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to add an item to section 5 of the bylaws, and it would be letter F, and it says, the text is, the platform committee shall deliver the platform to the executive committee no less, and the communications committee no less than 30 days before the starting date of the convention.
Hold on one second, Mr. Mijas. This is submission 20BF009 that you're speaking about? Is that the correct motion?
You know what happened? Sorry. I didn't get to print out, I forgot to print out that and keep it with me. So I rewrote it in this form because it's essentially the same thing.
Is this motion previously submitted?
It's been submitted on the website.
Okay. Is this motion titled submission 20BF009? Is that the motion by Mr. Ricardo Mijas to move to amend the bylaws related to the platform?
You have it here.
That's the motion we're talking about,
well,
correct?
Good. She has the original motion. She got it.
So before we can go into discussion about the motion, We can only read the title, which is motion to amend language. And that
Okay.
would require a second before you can read the motion. All right, seconded by Thompson? All right, so we have a second, so you have the floor to speak up to your motion, sir.
Okay, so the motion says, I move to amend bylaws, Article 3, Section 3, from the platform committee shall present a combined document of proposed changes and additions to the party platform at the annual
Mr.
business
Mijas,
meeting.
would you like for me to read the language?
Yes, go ahead, I think.
So it is motion to move to amend bylaws Article 3, Section 3 from the platform committee shall present a combined document of proposed changes and additions to the party platform at the annual business meeting. It shall perform its duties to present a document as outlined in Article 5. Language as amended will read, the platform committee shall deliver to the members of the executive committee and the communications chair an electronic version of the combined document of proposed changes and additions at least 30 days before the start of convention. The communications chair shall post this document on an LPF website and notify all party members of this posting by email or other electronic means at least 15 days before convention. The platform committee shall present a combined document of proposed changes and additions to the party platform at the annual business meeting. It shall perform its duties to present a document as outlined in Article 5. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Mr. Rose?
I have a question where it says, the communications chair shall post this document on an LPF website and notify all party members of this posting by email or other electronic means. My question is, by simply giving public notice, does that qualify as notifying all party members, or would this task the communications chair to literally notify every single member of the Libertarian Party of Florida?
I believe public notice depending on if we're talking state statute, if we're talking Florida Libertarian Party rules. So it can be defined how we choose to specify it.
Okay, because this would put in our rules that communications chair will notify all party, it says all party members. What is the, if this goes in our rules, what is the interpretation of this body of that language?
It could, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Barfield?
Thank you, and I have a similar question as my friend Mr. Rose there. As the communications chair, it says I have to contact all members of the party. How do we verify that Mark verified all members of the party? How do we know that they've been reached? That's why we have our governing, our deadlines for publication. So I think we've been meeting that, but I have no problem with publication or whatever, but verification gets to be a rather onerous task.
Mr. Mijas, are you
Yes.
going to be recognized? Yes.
Yes, I understand your concerns, and I'm willing to make changes to this motion in order to meet that requirement. I was not aware of those things, so therefore, let's see how I would change the wording. So could Mr. Barfield actually suggest the amendment?
Could I suggest?
No, Mr. Barfield, suggest the amendment to overcome the objection to the question of how you verify the people you're sending it to.
One suggestion that's been made to me is that we strike the word all. Alternatively, we can refer this to rules so they can come up with a bit of clarity while keeping the intent of the request.
I would be agreeable to dropping the word all.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
So we have a motion on the floor currently to strike the word all, preceding notifying before party members. Is there a second? Seconded. What's your name, sir? All right. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? What's the motion? I'm sorry. The motion on the floor is to strike all from the amendment. So it would read, The communications chair shall post this document on an LPF website and notify party members instead of notify all party members of this posting by email or other electronic means at least 15 days before convention. Thank you. You're welcome. Is there any discussion on this topic? No?
Yes, I'd like to just add one more thing about it as an explanation.
I'm going to let Mr. Sellers talk. Well, I'll let you speak briefly since it's your motion. And
Okay,
Mr. Sellers.
so the reason I brought up this motion is because we were told at the
Is this
platform.
germane to the amendment, which is striking all? Or is
Yes,
this
yeah,
germane
no,
to the main
I'm
motion?
sorry, that isn't,
Okay.
that's
So I'm going to go ahead
striking
and
all.
let
All
Mr.
right,
Sellers
right.
speak on this amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
I rise in opposition to the amendment because I rise in opposition to the motion in its entirety. The amendment is a small patch on a large problem. I recommend that we not do that, but move rather forward to not adopting this amendment, which I will address at that appropriate time.
Is there? I don't believe a motion was made yet. Is there any further discussion on the current amendment? Hearing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. All in favor of striking all, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Nay. One more time, all in favor of striking aye, or excuse me, all in favor of striking all, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion fails. We are now on the main motion. Would anybody seek to be recognized? Mr. Thompson, are you seeking to be recognized?
Not at this time.
Not yet. Mr. Sellers? I'm sorry, Mr. Mijas, would you like to be recognized first?
Yes, I was going to explain the reason why we did this is because we had a notice at very late in the process before the convention that there was a 30-day requirement that was a tradition, but it wasn't in writing anywhere. I searched all of the documents, and there wasn't anything about a 30-day requirement. So I thought it would be important for the next year that we do this, that whoever is doing it know in advance that there is a 30-day requirement of submitting the platform changes.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else seek to be recognized? Mr. Sellers. Followed by Mr. Thompson, followed by Mr. Detweiler. Oh, and Mr. Carteret had his hand up as well.
I accept and understand Mr. Mejia's observation that the rules may need some work. We will happily look at that. However, the notice requirements should not be specific to committees, in my opinion. And if so, we should not be devising them on the fly during convention, but rather put some thought into them and make them scaled appropriate to the task at hand. As we saw with the product of the platform committee brought forward today, it can be large. Is 14 days enough to review that? I don't know. The manner of publication, I would not recommend including email as a mechanism under any circumstances. Publication on our website has been sufficient for all of our changes and ought to remain so. It is not a push, it is a pull. Anyone can look at it at any time. It's more standard, and I'm endorsing standard. Let's fold something into the standard process if we don't already have something. I haven't looked at it in the last month, so I'm not going to opine whether our rules actually do address this particular case, but if they don't, they can certainly be made to.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Point of order.
We need to clear this room in 8 minutes.
Yes, we have 8 minutes left before we will have to motion to adjourn this business meeting, which means that all current motions that are currently filed will be on next year's agenda as old business and tackled then. So depending on what we get done now. Now, next up in line is Mr. Thompson, and we'll move to Mr. Detweiler and then Mr. Carteret. Mr. Thompson?
Point of information, if this is a rules change and not a bylaws change, could it be handled by the executive committee outside of this body?
This is a bylaws change.
This is a bylaws change, yes, but if it was a rules change and not a bylaws change, could it be handled by the executive committee?
Yes. If it's a standing rules change, yes.
Yeah.
So in which case, if the executive committee wanted to make such a motion, it would be applicable during that term.
Yes.
For instance.
Okay.
Mr. Detweiler, you're recognized.
Now that he has brought that up, that was one thing I was either going to suggest that we remove this back to committee for better wording, or we vote it down and allow it to be handled in standing rules, which means that you could vote for it at the next monthly meeting instead of annual meeting.
And it would only take effect for that term.
Point of information?
Point of information.
Are you making a motion to refer this to the executive committee?
I'll make a motion to refer it to rules.
Second. Okay.
There's a motion to refer this vote to rules committee. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so there's currently a motion on the floor to refer this to rules. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. All in favor of referring this motion to rules, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 minutes left to get business done. My suggestion would either be to
Mike.
make a motion now. So, we still have a couple minutes left. I will be stopping the meeting at a hard 2 o'clock. So we'll keep the floor open until then. Would anybody seek to be recognized for bylaws changes? Mr. Rose, you have the floor.
One final submission, Mr. Chair. I wish to move submission 20-BF008, title motion to amend language.
BF008.
Correct.
Motion to amend language. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Requero.
Text of the motion is, I move to amend LPF bylaws, Article 4, Section 2, subsection A, from the executive committee shall set the agenda and business of the LPF annual business meetings and convention. To read, the executive committee shall set the agenda and schedule of business for the LPF annual business meeting and convention, and shall publish notice of these at least 30 days prior to the opening of the annual business meeting.
Is there any discussion on this item? Mr. Carteret.
I think the idea behind this has merit. I think the language needs work. I move to commit it to rules.
We have a motion to commit this to rules, seconded by Mr. Kortzer. Oh, thank you. Second, Mr. Kortzer. Is there any discussion on the motion to submit this to rules? Hearing no discussion, we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. All in favor of moving this item to rules, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. That was second, Mr. Kortzer. Mr. Requero, you seeking to be recognized?
Yes, are we doing announcements?
Yes, we will. Well, right now we have about 5 minutes left, not even, about 3 minutes.
There are no further noticed bylaws.
Oh, then we're all set. So, according to the agenda, we have a motion to adjourn.
No, before we adjourn, I've got, I want the body to formally thank, if I may interrupt.
Go ahead.
We had a person volunteer to come help us today. Raul Tora and his daughters Phoenix and Onyx came here and did the photo portrait sessions for us up from Tampa. That was just a freebie. All right, that's it. I just wanted to recognize them for their contribution today.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And I just want to say, Mr. Requero, you're recognized.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, who put all this together. Thank you to the work of the committees. And, this is a lot of work. You don't see it, but you show up, and here it is. We still have one candidate in the room. His name is Marcos Morero. Here he is. Please. He has been running for this position for a long time. He's been gearing up for it. There's still, 50, 60 people here? Multiply that by 10. Just $10. Please donate to his campaign while he's here right now. Thank you.
One point of order, a motion to adjourn was made and seconded.
That is correct. So we currently have a motion and a second to adjourn. That is a privileged motion, so we'll go ahead and take that to it. We can still continue talking afterwards. We'll go ahead and take that to a vote. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. You're all dismissed.
Okay, wait a second. Before you go, there are a bunch of bananas in the other room that I wanted to get auctioned off to. Yeah, there's bananas all over this place, but we wanted to give away these bananas. I mean, they're going to all get ripe at once, you know, in a while. So I don't know how to benefit the LPF by these bananas, but everybody who wants bananas, go get some and pay the LPF something.
And I just wanted to give a very special shout out as well to Mr. Mark Galobe, who worked very, very hard this weekend to make sure our stage, our lighting, and everything was perfect, professional, and poignant, and we really appreciate him and his service. And if you are looking for any lighting or AV needs, contact him. He's a rock star. So I want to thank you guys all for coming to the Libertarian Party of Florida 2020, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Live free.
Stephen, how do we find out if we got elected delegate?
I'm sorry?
How will we find out if we got chosen as a delegate?
Come on up and we'll explain that. If you're not clear where you stand or where somebody you know stands as a delegate, come up and we'll explain to you your standing and the process. Mr. Carteret? Oh, yep, Mr. Carteret, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, our committees are starving for volunteers. If you think you can be an asset to the party, please come up and talk to either our vice chair or our chair and sign up. Let's get some butts in the seats and let's get the work done.
I also want to say that we're probably the only libertarian affiliate in the country that can effectively end a presidential campaign.